How's it going, y'all? Um, I have something I want to talk about today. That something is mental illness and how we as a society view mental illness, view people with mental illness, how we talk about it, how we treat people with mental illness. Uh, I had a cousin who made good music, good country music. He was good at what he did, so much so that people sought after him. He had a fan base. He opened for mainstream artists, and he was on his way to the top of country music, only to overdose and die. And it had me thinking, why would a God, if there is a God, put him on this earth and be so good at something that so many people enjoy just to take him away? And I thought, why would he have this mental illness? And I thought, why did this mental illness take him out of the world? But then as time has passed, I thought that maybe it was the mental illness, what we label as the mental illness, that gave him this ability. And it was society's reaction to this mental illness that took him away. So as time passed, I started researching a little bit into how humans have, and historic societies have treated people with mental illness in the past. Have they all been treated this bad? Have they all been pushed to the side? Has there always been a neglect? And what I found was quite beautiful. I found out that many societies see people with what we label presently as mental illness. They see them as not as broken, but as possessing a special insight and otherworldly knowledge or access to something beyond what sanity can see. Um, it's like madness, when seen under a different perspective, becomes a source of insight rather than shame. And currently, I believe we shame people with mental illness. Um, so I got to thinking, and when it comes to artists like Luke Bell and like Van Gogh, and what we always see as like the troubled genius or whatever, the tortured genius, the tortured soul. I've talked about it before. Uh, but something as that their what we label as a mental illness has given them perspective to see beauty and to see inspiration in something that a sane person seems is so normal. This is why Van Gogh would walk by a normal cornfield and see it as something so beautiful enough to spend hours and paint it, and then give us the opportunity to see what he was seeing and be like, oh, that is why it's so pretty. That is pretty. Then you look at the cornfield, you're like, that is a pretty cornfield, but I didn't know without that perspective. um so I got into looking up how historic societies have treated people with mental illness, and I found a lot of cool things. um for example, Native American and Siberian and tribal African cultures, people, shamans were chosen for their special connection to something otherworldly, to the spiritual world. Um, those who experienced visions, saw hallucinations, heard voices, acted outside of social norms, were sought after for potential shamans. They weren't labeled as current crazy people, which I thought was pretty cool. And furthermore, in kind of more popular history, Plato, Plato in Greece describes it as divine madness, and he describes it as a gift, saying that that all beauty comes from madness, that one cannot see the light without experiencing the dark, that one cannot know what is beauty without knowing what is ugly. And I thought that was pretty cool. And this is even seen in Christianity, which was surprising to me for some reason, because I believe that, I don't know, I pair Christianity with, I guess since it's the religion I was raised on, I pair it with current society. And Joan of Arc in Christianity displayed behaviors that were abnormal. He heard voices, saw hallucinations. Um, and this wasn't seen as crazy. It was seen as, quote, divine revelations, which I think is pretty cool. And another perspective I thought was unique and cool. There's psychiatrists, philosophers, I think, and sometime in the 1900s, his name's R.D. Laing, if I'm not mistaken. He saw people with schizophrenia as a reaction to a sick society, which I mean, that's a pretty cool perspective. So if we have all these people that we describe as crazy in our society, what is driving them to become so? Is that not a reflection of ourselves? Is that not a reflection of how we treat each other? Is that not a reflection of maybe our soul or spirit trying to escape, trying to find different perspectives, trying to find a different angle in or out? I don't know. I just think that how we talk about mental health, how we treat people with mental illness is something that needs to change, or it's only going to get worse. Um, I was raised in a place in Wyoming where suicide per capita is the highest out of any other state in the country. And it's just interesting as I look back through how we were introduced to what mental illness is. It was never talked about as something that could happen to you, something that could happen to me, something that could happen to your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle. It was just talked about as something that is, not something that is going to happen to someone in your life. And I think our reaction to that is very important. And how we treat people with a mental illness might be the wrong way. Even the title, like mental illness, just sounds like negative. I don't know. That's all, though. Hope you guys are doing all right.